Episode 5 of Guitar Tales. We are thrilled to be here. This is our 5th episode. That's what E5 means. Thank you so much to Riverview Studios. This studio is absolutely beautiful. I want you guys to take a look because I could look at it now. We're going to get you some pictures of it. Beautiful brick walls all over the building. I would guess it's probably about 110, 120 years old. We're sitting here on the banks of the Delaware River. It's just an absolutely magnificent studio. Eclectic, interesting. There's different spaces. You have this space here that we have. There's spaces in the other part of the first floor. There's a second floor. Absolutely beautiful space. So we're thrilled to be here. Thank you again to Riverview for supporting us here at Guitar Tales. Second thanks to Scott Guitarmacist Engel. I almost said your name wrong, Scott. For lining up tonight's episode. We have a real live guitar shredder with us tonight. I mean a real guitar shredder. So good that I'm afraid to even pick up or even look at a guitar today. Steve Bello, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Excellent,
absolutely.
excellent. Good job.
We worked so hard to set up this show.
Yes.
You and I have been emailing back and forth. Scott has been emailing with us.
Oh, yeah.
So your credentials, we don't have to talk a lot about it, but they're in a category of holy shit. So I have notes here. I always look at notes. Leslie West, you've opened for Leslie West of Mountain fame for those folks who are under, say, 45 or something like that. Or like, who the fuck is Leslie West?
Yeah.
We know who Leslie West is. Hopefully they don't edit that comment out.
Well.
Here's Dukin, did I say that right?
Well, George Lynch of Dokken with his band Lynch Mob. It was 2 gigs I did with him.
Right.
And I got to open for Uli Roth from Scorpions 3 times.
That's crazy.
The third time, he actually personally requested that I be direct support for him at the Wonder Bar. Played this past April. It was a great show. It was a great turnout, and I was just happy he remembered me. So that was really cool.
It's fantastic. See, you are sort of in the vein of a Steve Vai. I watched you play. I watched you warm up. The way our show works is that you recorded a couple of songs for us. I know which one we're going to put in as the intro. The one that the folks watching haven't seen yet, you rock out a little bit, or as you said, you noodle a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to look at a guitar ever again after I watch that. Except that you're a teacher.
Yes.
So one of the things you do is help bring people maybe as close as possible to that kind of level.
Well, I have various students. You know, they range in age. They also have different influences. Some kids pick up a guitar because their parents say, you know, do a hobby.
Right.
And then it's kind of like pulling teeth in the beginning, like, okay, so what bands do you like? What songs do you like?
Okay.
And they'll be like, I have no idea. And I'm like, there's music all around.
Right,
There's got to be something you like. And I'll start saying, well, what do you think of Katy Perry? What do you think of Lady Gaga? And they're like, we never heard of them.
Really?
And I'm like, really? You know, and I'll play a little riff and they'll go, why does that sound so familiar? I'm like, I bet your dad plays it in the stereo or on Spotify or whatever. And then they go, oh, you know, actually that's it. That's it. And the light bulb goes off. So
I can't wait. All right. I can't wait to dig into this because I hadn't even thought about sort of the creativity behind teaching, which is a big part of your life. And we'll talk about your albums because you've had albums. Before we do anything else, though, you know our deal here on Guitar Tales is we have 6 degrees of John Bon Jovi. Some people call it 6 degrees of Bon Jovi. We don't call it that. 6 degrees of John Bon Jovi. What is your story? How do you get there? How many steps does it take?
Well, it took me a little while to think about it.
Okay.
But I realized that Matt O'Ree.
Now, who's Matt O'Ree?
Matt O'Ree, he's a blues.
Matt
O'Ree, he's Irish. Matt O'Ree.
Okay.
He's a blues guitar player, if you want to narrow it down to that.
Okay.
He won the King of the Blues from a Guitar Center contest many years ago, so I'd heard of him even back then. And his band opened for a band I was in 2012. I played with T.M. Stevens. He played bass with Steve Vai, Joe Cocker, Miles Davis, and all that.
Really?
So he opened for us, and I guess that would be one step away from.
Now, what is his connection to John Bon Jovi?
He played with John.
Oh, he played directly with John.
He played in Asia. He did an Asian tour.
Really?
He was handpicked.
All right, so it's like 3 steps, right?
I think so, yeah.
That's pretty good. There you go. 6 degrees of John Bon Jovi. Excellent. Now let's go back.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about the creative process. All right, you're a guy who's absurdly skillful on the guitar. I've seen that. I watched you warming up, like I said. The folks who were watching saw your intro, which was a beautiful song. That's off one of your albums, right?
Well, there was a small little video that was filmed as a promo. I was just testing the pedals, making sure everything was working.
But the slower one?
The slower one's a song called Turn to Rust. It's off my new CD, Marblehead.
Okay.
It came out last May.
Okay.
So that song, I was very surprised that it actually got airplay on WRAT radio.
Okay, that's
down in
the
Belmar.
short.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom Hanley contacted me. He said, I heard the song Time to Fly, which was the first single.
Okay.
And he says, if you send me a copy of the CD, I'll guarantee it airplay. And I was like, wow, this will be the first time
That's fantastic.
I'll be on the radio.
That's great.
So he said, I got to play Turn to Rust. I'm like, it's 7 minutes. He goes, yeah, I know.
It's like 1978 again.
Yeah.
In a good way. In a good way.
I just don't have the bell bottom, so.
Right. So the beauty of it is that I'll bring us back to teaching, and then we'll talk about. I want to talk about your endorsements because you endorse some serious gear. We'll talk about your albums, but when you go to teach students, are they in awe when they find out that the folks you've played with, the albums you've put out, the fact that you're literally an endorser for Ibanez? I mean, that's gigantic. Orange, that's gigantic. Like, does that give you more sort of street cred when you're getting students, or do they not even realize or care?
Most don't even know, to
Really?
be very honest. I have a lot of young students, and the last thing I would do is sit there and go, well, let me tell you about what I did.
Right.
They just either want to learn the guitar or they just want to fill up a half hour of their time because their parents are going shopping.
Right.
More often than not, their parents will go, oh, well, we looked you up on YouTube, we looked you up on Facebook, and, we didn't realize you were this guy. And I'm like, I'm still trying to be that guy.
Right.
And I'll go, you're being so humble about it. And, I would love to be talked about in the same sentence as my heroes. I'm still working on that. But when these kids watch the videos, they're like, Steve, you play the guitar with your teeth? Yeah, you teach that? I'm like, no.
Okay.
My dentist loves me though. But and then they'll start asking me questions. Tell me about the guitar you play. Tell me about your cables. Then they show a little bit more interest, and then they get inspired to learn more.
So, what I'm thinking about is what happens with the kids where mom or dad throws them in there. I'm thinking of even sports when you have the parent who is sort of the frustrated, not necessarily successful athlete, and they want their kid to play great football or baseball or soccer. And you might have a rock fan parent who wants their kid to play guitar. I failed in that regard, but I didn't push my kids. I sort of gently said, hey, would you like? And they said no, and I said, okay. What do you do with the kids who really don't necessarily want to be there, but the parents put them in with you?
I do my best. I'll show them a simple little melody.
Right.
I'll even ask them, is there a song you heard on the radio that I might know?
Okay.
I can at least show you how to play a couple of chords. Sometimes they go, yeah, okay, cool, and they just have a blasé kind of attitude about it, and hopefully over time they pick up steam and go, this is actually kind of cool.
Right.
I never look at a student and think I'm going to groom them to be the next, Randy Rhoads or whatever.
Right.
I'm just happy that they're sitting there and they're going, this is really cool. I'm actually putting my fingers here and I'm making a sound. I don't know what this sound is, but it's cool. And then the light bulb for some of the male students, I'll be honest, is that they'll say, yeah, I was playing at school and this girl started talking to me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, if that influences you to play more, yeah, I heard she likes these bands. I'm like, let's go to work.
My story is Jesse's Girl. I learned how to play Jesse's Girl. So what is that feeling like as a teacher? When you see that light bulb go off and they turn the corner from being there because mom and dad want them there, mom or dad want them there, and now they're there because they want to learn and they're enjoying the music.
Teaching, I always said it was very rewarding.
Right.
I've been doing it for 23 years. I did it part-time private lessons, which I still do when I was working other jobs. And now that I afforded the possibility of doing it as many hours as I've been doing per week, between the store I teach at and private lessons, the light bulb moment is always the best feeling in the world.
Right.
It's almost kind of like you're trying to find the right key to open the door.
Right.
And you're just fumbling through and you're fumbling through, and then there's the right key, and then it goes, and then the kid goes, ah, and it's just the best thing.
That's fantastic. That's really.
And I walk out, I'm like, this is worth everything to me. It could be something as simple as, here's a G chord. Oh my God, my fingers can do that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be, okay, here's a Joe Satriani lick, although I'd love to do that. I
But
have to
that's
start off slow.
5-6 years down the road or
yeah.
something like that. And so are you based in a music store? Are you based on the internet? How do people find you?
I teach at a store called Music and Arts up by me and Ramsey.
Oh, I know that. I know of it's a chain, right?
It's a chain.
Right.
I do 2 nights a week in the Ramsey store, 1 night a week in the Paramus store, and the rest of the time I teach privately. I go to people's houses, they allow me in, and
that's
we have a good time. I enjoy it. I love teaching.
Now, there's a conventional wisdom among parents that I don't agree with. I wonder what you think. A lot of parents think that the child should start on an acoustic guitar. Do you have a view one way or the other on that? Have you experienced that?
I've always said that the kid has to be happy. And if the kid is happy playing acoustic, that's great.
That makes sense.
But I've had some kids that were just frustrated.
Right.
They're like, I really want an electric. well, I don't think you deserve one until you show me you can do this.
Right.
And I'll say to the parents, you're kind of punishing the child.
For something that's creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the mother will go, well, okay, what's a cheap electric in case he doesn't stick to it? And I'm like, you're already being self-defeating.
Right.
And I'll just say, all right, you can get a pretty cool mini Strat or a mini Ibanez Micro for this much money. And the kid puts it in his hands and you think you give him the Sword of Excalibur. It's like,
Right.
this is the greatest thing ever. The gossamers are chiming and the angels are singing. And then they're like, okay, now let's get down to business.
Well, that's what I always told parents, and I'm not good, to be clear. I'm not good. And again, I told you before the show started, you're one of those guys where I watch you play and I think, why am I playing guitar? I shouldn't go near a guitar. I'm nervous about picking up a guitar in your presence, because I'm a garage band guy who stopped being active many years ago, but I play a tiny bit now. But I always tell parents that I still play.
Yeah.
And don't put your kid on acoustic, because unless they really enjoy it, because it's not as much fun. And if you want your child to have an avocation that lasts them throughout their life, let them enjoy it. And obviously there's some people who will start on and enjoy and excel at acoustic.
Yeah.
But electric, if you're not super serious at that level, it's more fun and it's more approachable. Show our folks about action, because there's a lot of guitar players who watch our show, and then a lot of folks who don't necessarily know much about guitar. Show us what action is and why this is different than acoustic.
Well, the action on most acoustics, you'll have a rounder back.
Okay.
The strings will be a little higher because when you hit the chord, you want all that power, you want that sustain. With a lot of electrics.
Again, guitar players know, what is sustain?
Sustain, well, Spinal Tap, can you hear the sustain? Sustain is when you hold a note and it trails. Some it decays really quick and some just trails nicely.
Right.
My particular guitars, I like the action very low.
I can't even see the space
Yeah.
between the strings and the neck.
But there's still a good amount of sustain.
Yeah.
Because these pickups, they're very hot. Even with a clean tone, they have a lot of bite and they have a lot of juice to them.
What are they?
These are Signature Series Paul Wagner from the band Between the Buried and Me. These are called Hornet pickups.
Okay.
These are amazing pickups.
What makes them special?
They just have this clarity.
Okay.
I had previous pickups in here, and they had good sound.
Okay.
But my previous job, this rep came in, and he chucked the setup, and he goes, here, try these. If you don't like them, just give them back. And I was like, sure. My friend Rick put them in. I turned it on, the clean tone. I was just like, this is a brand new guitar. And I've had this guitar since 2001. It sounds like I bought it yesterday.
All right, I'm going to take a chance here. Do you know the history of how pickups started and how the wires work and all that?
Seymour Duncan gave me a briefing, actually.
I'd love to hear it.
Well, the thing he told me was each pole piece is where you transfer the sound through.
Okay.
There's a mile wrap of wire. It's like
Right.
a copper wire. And if you want a hotter sound, you'll have more wrap. Some guitar players want less wrap because they want a little bit of a duller sound. So it really depends on the player.
Right.
You can switch pickups till the cows come home, and some have to work with the body of the guitar.
Right.
This is a
You have big cutouts there.
yeah, because the
Right.
previous pickups I had to reroute
Okay.
because I had stock pickups in these. I had another brand that they were just a little wider, but it didn't mar the finish in any way. If
No, it
anything, I
looks
think
great.
it gives it a little character.
Right.
And I put these in; they just dropped right in, and I've had these pickups in here since 2014.
And are you a humbucker, a single coil, both? Like what's right there? Obviously humbucker.
All my guitars have the dual humbucker, but this has a 5-way select, so I can get the single coil sound.
Oh, okay.
So some guitars have the push-pull coil tap. I don't have that on my guitars. But the only guitar I have that has a single coil is it's another Ibanez. It's a Steve Vai Universe 7-string.
Okay.
Now, ironically, I do what Richie Blackmore does. I screw it in the body.
Oh,
Because
really?
it gets in the way of the picking.
Oh, that's interesting.
But what makes it interesting is that if I'm playing like something funky with a clean tone, I don't want too much volume, I can actually go like that, and the
Okay.
volume impedance goes down. So you can still hear the clickiness.
Right.
It's just got this really cool funky sound like what Prince does or did past
Right,
tense,
right,
unfortunately.
right. I saw you made a comment on either Instagram or Twitter or something about talking about how you've seen him,
Oh yeah.
and you're a big fan of his.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I had years ago I had a '78 Strat, and I did not. Yeah, I know.
I'm a sucker for those.
I don't have
had
it anymore.
I had two 72 reissue Strats.
That would be beautiful. Mine was
Years ago.
a '78. It was a 3-bolt neck. It was not a pre-CBS. It was still beautiful, but I didn't like the placement of the volume knob.
Yeah.
And I actually took a hacksaw, and I put it on full, and I cut it off, and then I just put a piece of electrical tape over it because I always found that right here, for the way I play, would interfere with my downstroke. And
Interesting. Yeah.
I have a Court right now, which isn't, it's okay, you know. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a hacksaw. I'm going to put the volume where I want it with needle nose pliers, because I'll have just a little nub left. And I'll put a smooth piece of tape on top, because I don't. So you do that with a pickup, though, you said. You screwed in a pickup so it wouldn't interfere with your picking.
Yeah, I had to screw it down into the body.
Right.
It's just high enough that when you go to the second or third position, you still hear it, but it's a little, volume is a little,
Right,
little
it
lower.
won't pick up the
Right.
vibration quite as well.
So that when I pick, because I tend to pick towards the middle.
Right.
So if I'm doing a lot of sweep picking, if I'm doing a lot of fast, crazy alternate picking, I can't be banging into this thing. It slows me down.
And it'll make a noise if your
Yeah.
pick is hitting the pickup.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool
Right.
for Jimmy Page. You know, you
Right.
listen to the old Zeppelin records, you can hear the ding, 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 ding,
So
ding
he's
kinda
doing that on
sound.
purpose.
Yeah, I love it. You like to listen to the solo in Heartbreaker. It
Okay.
almost sounds like he's messing up, whereas he's not. It's just like, that's just his attack.
Right.
And it's just like, wow, you know, it's just such a cool
That's pretty
sound.
innovative. That's very cool. Now, so do your students get interested in gear?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. I have a girl that I'm teaching, actually. She's great. And she's into thrash metal.
Really?
Yeah. And you know, she started on 6-string. And
Okay.
then she saw videos of me playing a 7, and she goes, I have a 7. Do you teach 7? I said, yeah.
Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is, you told me you were bringing
Yeah.
a 7. I didn't notice it.
And it's magenta. So.
What? All right. So we'll have to talk about that. I've talked about it on this show before, but I heard a wonderful show. I think it was on Volume on Sirius, and they were talking about how I think it was Gibson is finally realizing that there is more than one gender who plays guitar,
Yeah.
and women generally, with a lot of exceptions, have smaller hands than men and smaller bodies, and they've actually come up with a lot of female electric guitars that are designed to accommodate women who are just on average a little smaller than men, and certainly their hands. And it's amazing that no one has thought about that before.
Well, to be fair, I'm sure there's still around, a company called Daisy Rock.
Okay.
It was an offshoot, I think, of Schecter.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they designed guitars for girls, you know,
Right.
so that was many years ago.
Yeah, a friend of mine, his wife had a custom guitar made, and I tried it one day, and it played so gorgeously.
Yeah.
But to have a slightly narrower neck, the body was a little smaller, but it was just so fast and effortless to play.
That's how I set all mine up. Because anybody that plays this, they get all this buzzing, and they have like no control. They're like, man, this thing, and I just like, you know, you gotta have the right touch.
So that's a car equivalent of a really sensitive gas pedal and a really
Yes.
sensitive steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Precisely.
interesting. That's fantastic. And what the hell kind of pick is that?
This is Swiss Picks.
It's very thick. Oh, Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Here, can anyone see that? I don't know which camera we've got here. You could look at it.
Yeah, there's
Threw
the-
that into my little face here. But there's holes in it if you look at the size. Oh, that's very clever. But
Yeah, Pete Pankowski, he's the designer, the owner of the company, and you know his MO was, you know, if you don't want your pick to slip from you when
right.
you're playing, he put the hole strategically. And
Yeah.
it's very comfortable. I admit, he sent me a couple, and at first I was like, I don't know, man, but
It's-
I
it-
fell in love with them right away.
There's
you
no
know?
give.
No, there's no.
There's not a draw. So you have to be really accurate. You know, you can't take advantage of like the thin pick where you could be a little sloppy.
Yeah.
This is going exactly where you put it.
I also have to mention these are Rusty Cooley signature picks.
So what does that mean?
He's an amazing shredder player himself out of Texas, and these are his signature picks. These glow under black light. Actually, these are day glow green.
So it makes for better filming, video,
Yeah.
things like that. That's a crazy looking pick.
They're great.
But
great.
the thickness is crazy. This probably won't get picked up on camera. I'm putting you through the paces right now.
Pete sent me 2 different thicknesses. One's a little thinner than that, so it depends on my mood.
This is as thick as a quarter, I'd
Yeah.
say.
But it's comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that. Did you get it? There we go. You could try again. But yeah, that's as thick as a quarter, and it's small. It's you
Yeah,
know, in
I
terms of the
discovered that-
diameter.
I used to use regular picks for
Right.
years, and back in 2000,
Right.
I was in a band and we were doing a session, and it was
Okay.
so hot in the studio.
Right. Your hand gets sweaty, and
and
it
I
gets
dropped
slippery.
my pick.
Right.
So I just like, let me just finish this song. So I reached over to the amp. I grabbed the first pick I picked up. It was another brand.
Right.
This jazz, and I'm like, well, this is interesting. And I'm like, I noticed my playing got more accurate,
Right.
got a lot sharper, and I want to redo that whole demo
Right.
because I love the way this sounds. So I was using the other brand for years, and then Pete contacted me, goes, I've had my eye on you. I want you to play these picks. I said, send me some to try out, and a partnership was
so
made.
you have to play up to the pick,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
Let me see you do a little something on it.
Well, you know.
Yeah, but can you play anything fast?
No. That was blues, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
Crazy. Yeah, that's an example of why I should throw away my guitar.
But what's great about this pick is that even when you play slower and cleaner, you get a lot of articulation. So even chords like this,
Now, how does that work if you were to play a rhythm? Do you feel like that impacts upon sort of a funky rhythm?
Well, as far as like funk, like clean tone, or
Either.
Or funk with a hard rock. Well, you know what? When I play like a funk Prince kind of thing, I have a little bit of delay on just to fatten the sound. But I notice like with this kind of a pick, because it's got a very sharp point, I get a lot of attacks. So if I'm doing...
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. Obviously, if I was to kick on distortion, if I may, for like a harder rock sound, I get a really sharp.
All right, that's a perfect segue. So we've on two shows we've talked about the technique for harmonics. Well, let's hear about yours.
Well, there's varying harmonics.
So
let me get into teaching mode. Well, there's varying harmonics. The obvious typical ones are the natural ones. Then you get the artificial ones when you pinch the note.
So show us exactly what you're doing there in sort of slow motion.
I'll kill the delay for this way you can hear it a little better.
Okay.
What makes this tricky to describe is that you have to use the tip of the pick and the side of your thumb.
Right, and we've had Scott on talking about it, and I think he uses his pinky. Some people use the fat of their hand.
Yeah, I use the side of my palm for more. I'll kick on the distortion again.
Okay. So
if I'm doing like a really chunky Metallica style rhythm, I use the side of my hand. So I get. So that's one way, as far as the muting. But when I'm doing the harmonics, if I'm doing the artificial harmonics, I actually learned this, believe it or not, from Mick Mars from Motley Crue.
Really?
He did an article about how he sounded like he had a flanger pedal, but he didn't.
Oh, okay.
He said on the song Take Me to the Top, if you run your thumb with the tip of the pick along the low E string, he plays a G sharp note, so he goes like this. And I went, oh my God, I don't need a flanger.
That's freeing, very freeing.
Yeah, but then I'm like, well, certain chords, I want to hear that really brisk, swirly sound, so I had to get a flanger, of course.
Right.
But when it came to the pinch harmonics, what I really liked was having like Billy Gibbons, obviously, is the master of tone, and
let's hear some of that.
And when you add that vibrato, it gives it a very singing sound. So I have a lot of students, I'll be noodling before their lesson, and I'll hit the note, and they'll go, I want to do that.
Right.
I want to do that. I'm like, well, let's do Beethoven first. No, we're going to do that. So, when it comes to harmonics, I mean, there's other ways you can do it. Eddie Van Halen style, tapping, Which is kind of the equivalent.
There?
Well, it's kind of the equivalent to running my pick up and down the string, except I'm tapping the note, so I get what's called a harmonic node. I know it's a bit heavy, but.
So what do you have to do with your technique? I don't feel like your left hand is participating as much as your right hand.
Yeah, I'm just fretting a couple of notes here. So if I did, let's say, E to F sharp,
So what's the technique that you need with your right hand to create the harmonic with the hammering?
You have to find the octave.
Okay.
So all the octaves are 12, the octave apart, 12 frets apart. So here's my E on the D string, so I tap the E here.
And it's just a gentle tap.
So I can actually find more notes off this note. I can find other notes that way. Another type of harmonic I learned from Kiri Takasaki of loudness.
Okay.
Where you run your hand up and down.
That's clever. Right.
Actually, I said his name wrong. It's Akira Takasaki.
Okay.
Sorry about that. But, there's other types of harmonics. My favorite is, if I could pull this off.
All right. Well, we're all ears.
Lenny Brau. He was a jazz guitarist. He did this thing where he would fret a chord, and then he would play harmonics like this. So he would alternate between a fretted note and a harmonic.
Oh, I see. I want to describe what you're doing. I don't know if the
It's-
cameras will pick it up. This is cool.
Okay,
So
so
you've got your pointer finger and your thumb working
Yeah.
together.
yeah, so
You don't learn that in 10 minutes.
no, that took me a
that's-
while.
yeah,
But then this technique where you fret a chord, so he frets the note, he'll play the G, and then the next is a harmonic.
That's very cool.
He does it blindingly fast.
Really.
So
That's fantastic.
you know, I love doing that kind of stuff. It throws people because they're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing with your hand?" You know.
Yeah.
So, like even at the end of Turn to Rust, the very last chord is an E major 7, so I go like this.
But I watched you were also doing a really cool hammering thing in between a couple of sections. Show us what you did there.
When I was doing the faster stuff.
No, when you were doing the slower song, Turn to Rust, and you kind of did a sort of Eddie
Oh yeah,
hammer.
yes. This is what I did. So, with certain chords, you know, like this C chord, I do. It's,
Right.
now, what I'm doing essentially is I'm just tapping anywhere. And
Really?
just getting a sound. I mean, if I really want to focus on getting the notes, I'd have to find them all down here.
See, now you're doing that other technique,
Yeah.
but for the song, you're doing a straight hammer.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Now, what I like about that is, you know, if someone's listening to your song without any visual involved, it sounds nice, but I would imagine in live performance, it adds sort of a visual touch to it, because someone,
Yeah.
you're not just strumming, you're doing a gentle kind of hammer.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool. Now, only because we're on it right now, I picked up on something, I believe it was for the second song you did, and now's a good time to put it in after we're done chatting about it, is you did, basically you played slap bass on guitar, and
Yes.
I was watching you, and I asked you afterwards in our little break, and I said, were you doing slap bass? And you said, yes, I was. So show us what you were doing there.
All right. So I'll kick on the effect in a second to add spice
Okay.
to it.
Okay.
What I essentially did, you know, I played in a couple of funk bands in college,
Really?
and then playing with T.M. Stevens. I mean, you can't help but be inspired by such a bass player.
Right.
You know, I teach bass as well.
Do you really?
And I tell my bass students, look, I'm not a real bass player.
Okay.
You know, I
Can
can
you
teach
do slap,
enough.
though?
I could do slap.
That's very
But
cool.
not like Mark King or
Right.
you know, Larry Graham type stuff. But what I always liked about slap bass was that it added a nice percussive sound. It can be
Right.
overdone, like anything else, like
Well,
tapping
well,
or
people
whatever.
show off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so what I always like to
The
do.
Tom Scott Band. I remember they had
I heard of them, yeah.
they had a bass player that was just over the top in a good way with it. Go on, I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah, so essentially what I'm doing is really nothing fancy. I'm like just doing octaves and I'm doing little slides here and there.
All right. I could listen to that for 5 straight hours.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Do it. Do it.
Now it's
That's fantastic. I've never heard it done on guitar. The other really cool thing, and sort of almost the sad thing, is that in so much funky music that people hear on the radio or now on Spotify or what have you, it's creating the vibe, it's creating the rhythm, but I don't think people understand what the bass player is accomplishing.
Yeah.
You know, it's mixed in nicely. It's not like it's gone. It's not like it's in the background, but it just sort of mysteriously adds to the funk. And unless someone is really listening for it, the amazing work that bass players who really have mastered slap
Oh, yeah.
have done, I don't think it's recognized, at least to the extent it should be.
Well, I think the thing with slap bass, the first time I heard slap bass was, to my memory, I want to say a Living Colour song because they're one of my all-time favorite bands.
Oh, they're fantastic. So
And there's a
what-
song called I Want to Know off the first album, Vivid. It's the second tune after Cult of Personality. And, you know, Muzz, killer bass player on that record.
Okay.
And he's playing just really cool lines. And then you hear in between the vocals, he goes, whatever the key is.
Right.
And I'm like, holy smokes, what's he doing?
Right.
That's slap bass. So I was just like, man, that's such a great sound. And then I was listening to more funk. And this was around the time of the late 80s where all of a sudden all these bands were marrying funk with metal.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Chili Peppers,
Exactly. Yeah.
Bang Tango, and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff and whatnot. There was some great stuff that came out. Flea's an amazing bass player, obviously.
Yeah, he slaps all the
Yeah.
time, right? So in the slap, your thumb is hammering and your two other fingers are plucking,
Yeah.
or are you hammering?
Well, what I'm doing is this. If I had a bass, it would be a little easier, to be honest, because of the
Right.
string spacing. But, you know, you have to think like a drummer.
Right.
You know, the kick, I'm quoting Larry Graham here because he invented this style. The kick drum is your thumb, and the snare drum is your index finger.
Right.
So if you're doing the low string to there, then when you cross strings, you use your middle finger. So
And that's beyond cool. And I had somebody once tell me, just as me as an observer, I just slapped my microphone. Me as an observer, that both the thumb and these fingers are both supposed to be hammering, and I always thought that doesn't make sense.
well, this is hammering, but this is more.
Plucking, right? The thumb hammers, and these
Yeah.
fingers sort of pluck out.
What I teach my students, especially on bass, is I'll say, you know, do the low string like the low E, get the feel for it.
Right,
You want it to bounce. You don't want to look like you're turning a doorknob.
right.
So you want to do that.
What about like school days? You play school days? The answer would be yes.
Yeah, well, I know a little bit of it,
Yeah,
but
that's great because he did some
yeah,
sort of
Stanley Clark
slapper.
was amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
Is
if
he-
I could
you
do
said
really
was.
quick.
Is he
Oh,
not
he
around?
still is. Oh, he still is.
Okay,
I didn't mean it like that.
Right.
Now, the effect that I used on that one little thing, this is a part of my signature pedal line.
Wait, hold on. I'm looking at it for the first time. Your name is written on it.
Yes, that's so I know it's me.
Steve Bello's Slippery Gypsy.
That's
Very
a song off of my previous CD, Layers of
cool.
Time.
Okay. All right.
There's a guy, Rick Bethune. He just moved back to Tennessee. He was originally based in Mississippi, and he has a company called Checker Pedals.
Checker pedals.
Checkered Pedals.
So how do people find it? Like, just
He's on Facebook,
okay.
just like the rest of the world.
So checker, like you're playing a game of checkers.
It's checkered, yeah,
Okay.
with the ED at the end.
Oh, okay. Checkered
And
pedals.
he did a lot of overdrive and compressor pedals.
Right.
And, you know, we were chatting, and I said, you know, I have these really crazy ideas for pedals.
Welcome back to Guitar Tales. We are fresh back from a P-emergency, but we are back with Steve Bello. We were talking before. It was my P-emergency, I'll admit it. We were talking. They're laughing over there. We were talking about this pedal. It was
Checkered.
checkered,
Pedals.
and it's got your name written on it. So what does this box do?
Well, I wanted a pedal that was Hendrix on one side and Bootsy on the other.
Okay.
That's what I told
Bootsy
Rick.
Collins.
Bootsy Collins, of
Okay.
course. Oh, yeah, baby. You know,
Yeah.
so I said, these are the sounds I want. And what I would do for Rick is I would send him samples of my favorite guitar tones, like
Right.
with the other pedals, of course, but we'll talk about this one. And I said, I want like a Hendrixy univibe kind of sound.
Right.
And I did that with Turn to Rust. So, you know, with that, it's
Okay.
like a Robin Trower.
Okay.
I love that sound.
That's a great sound. And that sounds like a little flangey,
a little
right?
flanger, yeah, because
Okay.
I have a flanger right there.
Right.
But this side, I said, this is what I hear. I want a real thwacky auto-wah sound, just like real go for the throat.
Okay.
And he said this is the longest he ever worked on a pedal. Because
Really?
he knew I'm very particular. I drove him crazy, and
Okay.
I'm sorry
In a good
about
way,
that.
though.
But
Yeah.
so he would send me audio samples, and then
Okay.
he sent me the box, and I said, I'll test it out. And I was so excited, I actually made a video saying, I got this today. I'm going to play it for the first time. And we already sold one.
Really?
Sold one. So it's really cool. So with this, just before I do the slap sound, what I like about this is when I pick,
Oh, I love that. Can I try? That is such a cool sound. So that's like a flangery kind of sound, right?
it's more of an auto-wah envelope filter.
Wow. Oh my God. That is an amazing sound.
I set the attack so that you hear that boom at the very end. It's just got this really cool, Bootsy Collins used to call it a popcorn effect.
You might have just sold 2 of them.
I hope I did. But,
Wow.
but with this, you know, when I do the slap,
That's fantastic. So that's what you were using when you were showing us the slap before.
yeah, I had distortion on it. It was kind of masking it a little bit, but I figured now
And-
that you got the clean tone. You can set this to get a slower sweep or whatever, so
Right.
hit that chord.
And I'm incapable of playing any lead, and I'm like literally. But I heard that, and I thought that's beautiful for rhythm.
That's great for rhythm. You know,
Yeah.
for great for
Is that
heavy
what you-
stuff.
Is that what you used for the Prince thing you did before?
No, I use the this side. You know.
No, when you played the funky Prince thing.
Oh, the funky Prince. No, I actually I just have the chorus on.
Oh, really?
My Nuclear Paradise pedal. What I do there is I make it sound doubled. Like
Okay.
it's just a hair behind. So.
Right. That sounds great.
Now with that, if I combined it with the flange,
Okay. That sounds great. That sounds absolutely fantastic.
I love funny sounds.
Yeah.
And then I also have my Marblehead wah, my signature wah.
So I was looking at that. Is that hand painted?
Yes, it actually matches the color of the album cover.
Okay.
So this is a 6-in-1 wah.
So the thing is, I don't know how much the cameras can pick up, but I even want to cover these a little bit. So
Yeah.
your flange is simple. You've got rate and feedback and
Yeah.
an on-off, right?
Yeah.
Then your custom one, you've got funk and shake is it
Yeah.
called? I love that. But then you've got volume pots for scope, field, depth, and rate.
Yeah.
So you keep these where you want them.
Yeah.
And then you can control what goes on and off.
Yeah.
So your wah-wah, now what are these four things?
Well, this has a place card that you can remove. It was really big and white, so I had to take it off.
Okay.
The top knob is for gain. The middle knob is for tone. The bottom knob is to control the voicing.
Okay.
And then this blue knob, I have 6 different wahs I can get.
So
you know,
this
a Vox sound,
so
a
this
wah,
is not a
Dunlop.
pot. This is a choice, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now what's this? You have, the camera won't pick it up, but you can kick it in here.
This actually adds more of what's called a Q filter.
Okay.
So if I have this setting, this is Rick calls this the Eddie setting.
Okay, let's
So
hear it.
if I had this is with a clean tone.
I think we know which Eddie we're talking about, right? I'm wrong. I'm thinking Eddie Van Halen. It's not Eddie Van Halen.
Actually, he has a signature wah.
Okay, but that's not an Eddie sound right there, is it?
Kind of,
Okay.
sort of.
I don't think of him when I
Kind of,
think
sort
of
of. Well,
funky.
once in a while, he used a wah. He used one on the solo from Me Wise Magic.
Okay.
I think Top of the World. But with this, I have this set up so I get a nice throaty wah sound with rhythm, and especially with lead, so I can cut in it.
All right, that's a Hendrixy kind of thing also. Right.
So when I kick in this, I have to lean over to do this. I could do it with my foot easily. Now what I just did was I just added more bottom.
Okay. A lot more bottom.
It doesn't really cut through for heavy metal solos per se. It's just great for heavy rhythm.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing a lot of this kind of stuff. You know, I told him, I said I wanted to sound like I was throwing up. And it worked. So
So you've got, all right, so we've got the checkered, we've got the flange, we have the wah. Now what's on the far right? You've got a red unit there.
this is a Digitech Whammy 5. This has harmonization, pitch shifting. The cool thing with this was the older whammies, you couldn't play chords with it. It sounded too soupy. It sounded too robotic.
Okay.
Now with this, I have this set up to hit a note to go up 2 octaves. So this is great if you have a guitar with no trem system. So if you're into Tom
Wait,
Morello
with
from
no
Reagan,
what?
none of this
Oh, tremolo. I thought you said trim system.
trim system. But
I'm going to interrupt you if it's okay. I noticed for the second song, which I think at this point in our show is played now, you were really making a lot of use of your whammy bar in a really good way. But you had a lot of control over it, and you were using it not just sort of in this imprecise way, but in a very controlled, thoughtful way.
Yeah.
And I liked watching that.
I mean, when I was a lot younger, I did the Slayer thing and just
Right, and
know.
that's what I mean. There was a maturity in what
Yeah.
you were doing. It was very controlled. Like, you know, I'm even thinking of like the old Steve Howe volume swell.
Yeah.
When he would use the volume pot to do it, you know, but very controlled and very thoughtful.
you know, because I love guitar players like Alan Holdsworth, where they do more of a
Right. And that's what I was hearing you do, and you
Yeah.
weren't overdoing it. It was just, it's one more sort of bullet in the chamber
Yeah.
for you. Right.
But I also like to, you know, do the typical dive bombs,
Right.
Steve Vai kind of stuff.
Right.
This pedal, if you don't have a guitar, if you have a guitar that doesn't have one of these, you can set this so that if you hit a note, so I'm going to do a G note, for example.
Oh, that's very cool.
So when I was playing in the cover band a couple years ago, we used to do a Billy Joel song, Miami something. And the beginning has the synthesizer,
I know
so
what
I
you're
said I
talking
could do it. I did that, and the crowd would go, "Wow!"
That's really cool. So it's taking every note you're hitting, and then,
Yeah.
as though you're using a whammy, but it's
Exactly.
very controlled.
So with this, I can actually drop tune. So if I wanted to simulate 8-string guitar, I could play the
Okay.
low B now.
That's very
It
cool.
goes down to F sharp, and I can go even lower than that, where only dogs can hear it. I could do harmonies. So if I wanted to, let's see, what do I feel like putting on here? Okay, so this is going to go up a major fifth to a perfect fifth to a major sixth. So I could do power chords with single notes.
Oh, that's very cool. So what happens if you play a chord on that setting? So it still sounds good.
It's like what Steve Vai did on Passion and Warfare, all those really lush chords.
I would have thought it would sound bad, and it doesn't.
No, because the older whammies, you couldn't do that.
Right.
But the newer ones, you can. Now I can go between a fifth and a sixth and get this really nice,
That's a beautiful sound.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that sound.
So what's going on inside that pedal? I'm assuming it's just samples and computer and...
I wish I knew, to be honest. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure it's different algorithms and
Right.
different textures that are designed in the pedal. You can get these really cool sounds. One of my favorites is this harmony, where if I want to simulate 12-string guitar, I mean, obviously I'm not going to fool anybody.
Right.
But
That is a pretty... It's a little
That was
Rick
good for Tom
kind
Petty
of... It's
songs,
got a
you
little
know?
bit of a Rick kind of...
Yeah.
Right. Right.
you can also do like a church organ kind of a sound,
Yeah, you've got that. Right.
So like I said, I like to make a lot of noises.
So when you're on stage, so you've got wait, hold on, we have one more to talk about
yes.
in a minute. But when you're on stage, that's a lot to think about. And for the guitar players who play actively in bands, they're like, yeah, we get that, whatever. But for the folks who are just music fans, there's a lot that goes into you creating the kind of sound you need. And I don't think people recognize or necessarily appreciate how much goes into all the subtleties of the sound you need to accomplish to play any given song. But that being said, so you've got on the top left here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think there's 10 or 11 buttons or knobs on
Yes.
here. So what's going on with this guy? This is called Steve Bello's Layers of Time.
Again, named after the album. from
Okay.
2015.
All right.
This is a triple delay boost overdrive. So the delay, obviously,
That sounds great.
it's all analog.
Oh, really?
It's an analog pedal. I run it through the effects loop. Because
Okay.
if you run it through the front, to me, it just sounds real watery.
Okay.
So I like it through the effects loop. It just has a much brighter, sharper sound.
And that's got a little phasery-ness going on.
Maybe it's, well, the delay family, delay, phaser, chorus, flanger, they're all under the same umbrella.
Right.
It's all
Right.
time-based.
Yeah.
So with this, I have this overdrive. It's not meant to be brutal hard rock, but it's good for,
That's a nice, yeah.
I use it to fatten my solos.
Okay,
When I'm playing a lead, if I want a bit more hair,
let's hear.
so if I'm,
So what's nice about that sound, obviously the playing's great, but what's nice about the sound is that it's there, you can hear it,
Yeah.
but it's not slicing through in an obnoxious way.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's one more sound we didn't touch on in this
Yeah.
Nuclear Paradise, the
Oh,
phaser.
oh my God, I missed
That's
one of your
That's okay.
boxes there. This is
all right.
called,
Nuclear Paradise.
well, no, it's called the Steve Bello's
Bello's
Nuclear
Nuclear
Paradise.
So I
You
have
like
the
the way I lean
chorus.
forward so people
Yes.
can see this? Isn't that good? All right.
So this pedal has the chorus on the right, and I
Okay.
wanted a very 80s sounding chorus like The Fix,
Right,
The
right.
Police,
Right.
or like 80s Rush and stuff like that.
Right. That's a nice sound.
It's also great when you do this chord.
Yeah. Oh, what is that?
Purple Rain.
Yes, that's right. I knew I'd recognize that.
If I want to get all the attention, I just play the first chord.
Right.
Now on the left,
Wait, let's do a slight rabbit trail.
okay.
So Prince, is he a great guitar player? Is he a great guitar player for a singer, composer, star, or is he a great guitar player? End of sentence.
I would say great guitar player, end of sentence.
Really?
I mean, he was obviously multi-talented.
Yeah.
I was one of those snotty metalheads in middle school that was just like, ew, Prince, you know.
Right.
And I heard the solo to When Doves Cry, the beginning.
It's really impressive.
And at first I thought, no, that's his other guitar player. You know, he just
Right.
wears the guitar.
Right.
He's not really playing. And then I heard the solo for Let's Go Crazy, and I'm like, no, that can't be. That's got to be
That's
the
a
other
great.
guitar player.
I could hear it in my head as you
Yeah.
say it. That that's a great solo. If I could
course.
hear it in my head the second you say the name of the song, right?
And then on MTV back in '84, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, they played a Prince concert,
Right.
and he does "Take Me With You" of Purple Rain, and he starts ripping the solo. I'm like, wait a minute, that's him.
Right.
And it was at that moment I said, okay, I got to take him more seriously, and I got all of his records.
Right.
I really listened to his stuff. Now some of his stuff is hit or miss,
Right.
but I was just like, God, I felt so stupid being such an elitist little metalhead.
Well, it's almost like,
like,
if,
man,
if you
you
think
know?
of like a John Mayer, right?
Yeah.
His rep is, he sleeps with a lot of Hollywood women. He writes great songs. He's got a great voice, and most of his popular songs don't even remotely show off his guitar ability.
No, I was surprised, to be
Yeah.
honest. I was very surprised.
And he makes the front page. He's a cover guy and guitar player all the time. So obviously he's got real. So Prince, the same thing for you.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
If I could do this really quick, so now
You
that
could do it
I
really
have this,
slow if you want.
I have this setting, so
Yeah. Keep going. That's very
the song
cool.
kicks in. So
Right, and that's not an easy thing to play.
no,
Right.
no, I actually there was an issue of Guitar World from the mid '90s. They did an article on Prince.
Right.
The
Yeah.
front page. This is when he was the symbol.
Right. When
And
you
in
didn't have a name.
There was
Right.
like he rarely talked in general, but he rarely talked about his soloing stuff.
Right.
Somebody actually dissected his playing stuff, and I learned how to play When Doves Cry, the intro. I learned the chorus of Purple Rain. I Want to Be Your Lover, that little ding, 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 ding
Right.
kind of sound. You know, there's some
I
really,
mean, what
really.
did he do? He did Tom Jones's song.
Tom Jones did Kiss.
Yeah. Oh, that was right. That was his song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Tom
and that,
Jones cover. It was pretty cool, actually. I thought it
Tom
was
Jones
with
did
the
a
Art of
great-
Noise. So,
yeah.
so that's all my pedals in a nutshell, really.
and we have one more item to talk
yes.
about. So you've got so let's talk about this bad boy here. So you are an endorser, and that's a big deal. I mean, Scott talked about it in his promo for our show today. Ibanez is, I guess, them and Kramer are the two biggest guitar companies in the world, probably.
Kramer was huge in the early '80s because of
Right.
Eddie.
Yeah, right.
So
Because
Ibanez needed an Eddie Van Halen. So ironically, David Lee Roth got Steve Vai, so he
Right.
automatically became the Eddie Van Halen,
right,
and the rest was history.
right.
So.
And you're an official Ibanez endorser, which is not a small deal.
No, no.
So let's talk about this guitar. You've got sealed heads here, right? Which I was shocked. Our last show, Dim Wolstenholme, had a Gibson Les Paul. It had open machine
Yeah, I
heads.
saw that,
I was shocked. So what else can you tell us about this guitar?
This guitar holds a very special memory for me.
Okay.
I bought this guitar in 2001. I used to work at a store called Victor's House of Music up
Okay.
in Paramus. And long before I signed an endorsement with Ibanez, this guitar he sat on the shelf, nobody would buy it. It was too 80s looking.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll buy it. I have to buy it. It's just so
So
cool.
I'm gonna guess. So what year was it?
This
what?
is a 99 guitar, but I bought it in 2001.
$239.
I can't give the price, but I can tell you this much. I got it pretty darn cheap.
Okay.
So
All right.
I came home with this guitar.
Right.
My kids, I had two kids at the time. My third child was going to be born in July of
Okay.
2001. He's actually going to be 18 next month.
Wow.
My other two kids are 22 and 20 now.
Okay.
They have to watch me. They have to babysit me. So I come home with this guitar, and I take the guitar out of the gig bag.
Right.
And of course, my older son, he's oohing and eyeing it, and
It's a
my
beautiful
daughter,
guitar. Yeah.
my daughter was 2 at the time.
Okay.
So she looks at this, and she just stares at it, and she goes, Pinky. I said,
Oh,
Pinky?
she named it.
I said, Pinky. And she goes, Pinky. And I named it Pinky. So this
Oh,
is
that's
Pinky.
fantastic.
So I've had Pinky since 2001.
And it's
This got war stories. This thing
Yeah.
takes a beating and still comes back.
But I love the fact that you're missing a little paint on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then the neck, it's a wide neck.
It's
Because
like
it's
a
a
classical.
7-string.
Yeah, it's like a classical neck.
Look
It's
at that.
wide and flat.
It's got a wide neck. I literally, and because I do wear glasses when I drive, not when I don't drive, I actually can't see the space between the strings and the frets. I can't. You've got, wait a minute. So you've got a 4-bolt neck. I would have thought this would have been a 3-bolt neck.
No, it's a
That's where
4-bolt.
you're getting your sustain, right? And it's very heavy. You got easy access to all your stuff when you want to work on it.
Oh yeah.
This is a very heavy guitar.
It's not that. For me, it's not terribly heavy.
No?
It's not. It just doesn't feel doesn't.
I meant
feel
that in
heavy
a
to
good
me.
way, though.
Oh, I know. It
but
doesn't feel heavy to me.
It's very beefy, but and the neck is crazy wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had this guitar for 18 years.
So what have you done to it besides the pickups?
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing. Just change the pickups. Everything is stock.
I don't know that I've ever seen action lower than that on a guitar. Have you had it? So do you do it yourself, or do you have someone
Yeah,
do it for you?
I do it myself. Yeah.
And you've got right here. So you don't even use these bad boys to tune it?
Well,
pretty much,
you take
right?
these off.
Okay.
You string it. I because of the way this is designed, you have to pull this out
Okay.
and you thread it.
Right.
So
right.
it's like a normal guitar in that regard. But then I keep the ball ends on. That's a
Oh,
Steve Vai
look!
trick,
Wait, you're
actually.
backwards.
Yeah.
Because normally these bad boys are on the bridge.
Well, this one you have to clip the ball ends if you want to do it the traditional way.
Okay.
But with this, I actually learned this
I never heard of that
the
before.
Steve Vai way.
Wait, hold on.
just
Let's
thread
see.
it
I don't know
this
if we
way.
can get this. If you can get a close up here, I've never seen a guitar strung like this before. Right up here by the head. There you go. There you go. I'm watching on the monitor there. So you've got the strings are literally backwards, at
Yeah.
least conventionally speaking. That's very cool.
Yeah. So then you tune it to pitch. You put
Okay.
these down. This acts
So
as
now
a
you're
little bit of a
clamping it
vice grip,
down.
and then
So
you
this
fine
is
tune
your
it.
bridge, actually, at
Yes.
this point.
So then you fine tune it. This is from
And I
violin.
saw Scott doing that. Yeah, when
Yeah.
Scott was doing that when we had him on. That's very cool. Now the last piece of gear I want to talk about, although we don't have to be done at all. First of all, there's a cool pair of sunglasses on top of this amp.
Yes,
right here.
I heavily recommend those.
They're very nice. So you were also, I have to move my leg out of the way. This is Orange. You're an endorser for Orange. All right. So, and again, that's a big deal. Orange, I'm trying to think. They're probably as big as Peavey was, say, 20 years ago, right?
I would say so.
Yeah, they're a big deal right now. And I know that only because I went into Guitar Center on Sunday and I looked around. Everywhere you go, any guitar shop, you'll see Orange. And if you go on the internet, you'll always see their advertising. They're a big deal. So this is an Orange amp, something that didn't exist the last time I bought an amp, literally. So what's the deal with this amp? Watts, solid state, tube, what is it?
All my answers solid state.
Really?
This is the Crush series. This is
Okay.
the first ever solid state line for Orange.
So are they?
Totally killing with it. So.
So they made their name doing tube, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And tube's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
And I guess it has to be because to make tubes that work, tubes that can handle jostling about,
Oh yeah.
that's expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So is this a modeling amp?
No, it's just clean tone distortion with a tuner built in with
Okay.
reverb.
Okay.
Very straightforward.
And an electronic reverb, or do you have the springs in the little
It's
tank?
electronic.
Oh,
But it
okay.
simulates spring. So
Okay. All right. And it sounds fantastic. How many watts is that? I can't really-
35.
And that's more than enough these days, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you gig, do you gig with this and a mic, or do you get something bigger?
I have the 120 watt head, the Crush
Okay.
CR120 with the 212 cabinet open back.
Now, is
It's
that a
my
tube,
back.
or is that solid?
That's all solid state. All my amps
Really?
are solid state.
So, what's your now? What do you have the preference for solid state? What's your sort of thinking about it?
It's to me personally, it's more reliable.
Right.
I don't have to break my back.
Right, because it's heavier.
The tone is right there as soon as I plug in. If it's freezing
Right.
cold or brutally humid, the tone is always there.
Right, and if you have tube, you could have a real issue.
I've had tube amps and they were great. I had a
Right.
couple of PV over the years, way back.
Yeah, they made a
Very
great
temperamental.
and they made a great. They had their own version of the Fender Twin Reverb,
Yeah.
which I thought was fantastic. But you're right, they're temperamental, and if you blow a tube, you're in a lot of
Oh,
trouble.
yeah.
Right? Did you ever blow a tube? You ever have an issue like
Fortunately, that never happened to me.
that? Okay.
Fortunately, but with this, like I said, the first piece of gear I bought, the story with my relationship with Orange.
Okay.
My daughter was kind of learning guitar at the time. Then she switched to bass.
Okay.
So we went to Alto Music by our house,
Okay.
and she saw the Ibanez guitar with the pink neon strings, and she says, "I want to try that guitar." So she saw the Orange Rockerverb 50, and she goes, "I got to
That's
try
a
that
perfect
amp." I was
fit,
like,
right?
"Yeah, sure." She plugs in, she hits the low E string, and I went, "Give me that guitar." And I'm
Right.
playing. I'm like, "This is my sound." I always thought I wanted like tremendous high gain, like brutal overtones.
Right.
And I'm playing this thing. I'm like, I'm not using a ton of gain. This thing rips. So I bought a 20 watt Crush on the spot. And when I was in the cover band, I used that amp right out of the box, put it right on the stand. I told the guy, mic it.
Done.
So that was the first time
Right.
I used it live, and I'm totally impressed.
Who do they use for speakers? Do they have their own? Or?
They have their own,
Okay.
Voice of the World. So the next day, I contacted a friend of mine who was a publisher for some magazines. I said, who can I talk to at Orange? Even if I don't get an endorsement, I have to tell them I'm blown away.
Right.
Talk to this guy, Alex. I wrote him. I said, look, I know you don't know me from a hole in the ground, but I got to tell you, I'm blown away. And he said, you'd be perfect for us. And he saw my resume on my site, and he goes, you played with all these people? I said, yeah. And he goes, we got to give you an endorsement. I'm like, are you serious?
Just like that.
I said, are you serious? And he goes, well, hold on. We don't just give it to anybody, which I understand. He said, we're coming out with, at the time he said, don't say a word, we're coming out with our first ever solid state head.
Oh, so that's
I
perfect
want
timing.
you to try it. Are you coming to NAMM? This was in 2014. I said, yeah. So I was at NAMM, and I met
What?
NAMM,
What's that?
music convention in California.
Okay.
So I met Cliff Cooper, the CEO, great guy.
Right.
You know, everybody's very proper and very British.
Really?
You know,
Oh, they're a British
they're a
company.
British company.
Okay.
And they have a plant in Georgia.
Okay.
So everything I get shipped is from Georgia.
Okay.
So Alex said, Steve's going to try out the new Crush head. Okay, they put me in this soundproof room. They give me a Les Paul, and I went, I'll make this work. So I started playing like Soundgarden
Wait.
riffs,
What's the resistance? Because you're not a Les
I'm not
Paul.
a Les Paul guy. I'm sorry. I just can't get a feel for it.
Yeah.
I need that.
Right.
You know?
So that's interesting because usually it's Fender or Gibson.
I'm
but
a Fender guy. You know,
right.
if I had my
I like
druthers, I'm
Fen-
definitely a Fender
Yeah,
guy.
I like Fender better too.
So I plug into this amp. I'm playing some Soundgarden riffs.
Right.
And I went, oh my God, this thing sounds unbelievable. So I come out, and I said to Cliff, I said, this thing is unbelievable. He goes, all right, Monday we'll send you an endorsement thing. I'm like, what?
Just like that.
And he says, we'll send you something Monday, you're in. I was like, holy smokes.
Because you know why? I'll tell you why. Because you're not.
Here.
No.
It's okay.
I mean,
No.
maybe no. I'll tell you what it is. Because they fucking heard you play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think you understand how good you are, but they heard you play, and that's going to give you some credibility with them.
You know, I've been with Ibanez since 2003, by the way.
Really.
And I've been with Orange since 2014.
Well, and that's probably a piece of it too. They're going to say, I mean, we're big. Ibanez is bigger if he's good enough for Ibanez, but they heard you play. I'm sure that's
My
why.
resume impressed
Yeah.
them. I mean, let's
Right.
face it. And
Right.
It's like anybody worth their salt thinks they deserve an endorsement. I'm the last person.
Right,
that
because
thinks they
you're the
deserve
guy
it.
who's
When
saying,
Ibanez contacted me, they just said, we got to take care of you. I went, sure,
that's
this
fantastic.
is a dream.
That's absolutely fantastic.
You know, so the other piece of gear I use, I have SpectraFlex cables, and this is my signature.
They're very thick. I
Yeah.
hadn't noticed them before.
Cuts
So
down
here-
on feedback.
So here it is right here.
This
See,
is my signature Bello Flex cable.
Is it actually called that?
It's called the Bello Flex because SpectraFlex has a brand called Fatso Flex, which is the space off of.
Okay.
So Dave Russell over there said, you got to give it a cool name. I said, Bello Flex. He goes, sounds like
That
an
works.
exercise machine. I
It-
said,
it-
no, call it Bello Flex.
It's woven,
Yeah.
and you can tell there's a thick coating here,
Yes.
and it's fabricy.
Yes, very
It-
braided. Yeah, it's very
yeah.
nice. And this also glows under stage lighting.
So that's pretty cool. And that answers a question I wasn't thinking of asking, but you're not wireless when you play, I guess.
I have no luck with a lot of wireless
Right,
systems.
and that's just an invitation for problems.
Yeah.
So now I want to cover one last thing. I suspect we're going way over time. We're having so much fun here. So you've recorded multiple albums. Let's talk a little bit about that. How many albums have you recorded?
7.
That's a lot. That's in a good way. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
So where do you record?
Various studios. I mean, the first album was done in the guy's house,
Okay.
and the second and third records were done in a studio in Park Ridge.
Okay.
The fourth was recorded at a guy's house. You know, the guy that played bass on my fourth record, it was his studio in his house. The fifth record was recorded in Bennett Studios. It was a gorgeous studio. It's no longer in existence.
Where's that?
It was in
Or where was that?
Englewood.
Okay.
It was run by Tony Bennett's son,
Really?
Dave Bennett.
Oh, that's very
And
cool.
it was a great studio, huge. My friend Johnny was a producer there. He lives in Nashville now. I had a great time in that studio. Then the sixth album I did in another house, you know, a little studio. And then the newest record, Marblehead, was in 3 different studios. The drummer's place, the bass player's place, their guitar player.
Okay.
He's like, you can record in my house. Okay, no problem. And I had my orange rig in another room, and he goes, just crank it as loud as you possibly can. I had it on 2. He goes, that's pretty loud. You know, so.
That makes me think of Hendrix when he would take all his Sun amps.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, it was Marshalls. His
Yeah,
Marshalls.
Marshalls, yeah.
And he would put them all in 10 and 120 decibels, 121 decibels,
And you love
whatever
it.
was.
You gotta love it, you know.
But that's how he got his feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so how do people? It's Marblehead.
Marblehead.
So I'm sure they just go to your website. What's your website?
Well, I have a new old website.
Okay.
It's got a long name.
Okay.
So it's steviehimself.wixsite.com
Okay.
/Bello Rocks.
And my guess is if anyone Googles Steve Bello, they'll find it too, right?
Probably, yeah.
And if
probably.
they go on Guitar Tales, we'll have a million links to you. And Marblehead is the new album.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I got to tell you, I've had such a good time. Your
Yes.
guitar playing's fantastic. I really appreciate you
There was
coming in.
one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pedal board.
Let's
board
talk
itself,
about.
the board itself, and then we'll wrap it up. There's a guy near Rahway, New Jersey. I think the town is Avenel.
Okay.
Frank Greger.
Frank Greger. Okay.
He's got metal shop pedal boards.
This is fantastic. It's got. Can I lift it a little bit to
Yeah,
show?
yeah.
Okay. So if you can get a camera shot of this, it's got some nice, really nice heft to it. I could tell there's connectors here, so obviously there's a top. You could close it up.
Yeah.
Everything is secured really nicely, and you've got all your pedals on here. So when you gig,
Yeah.
it's all right there where you need it.
Yeah.
That's-
The funny story with this was,
Yeah.
he reached out to me and he said, I saw your other pedal board and it looks flimsy and it looks this. He said, come down to my house. I'll show you my work. So my daughter went down with me. She played with the cat and played with the
Right.
dog. So long story short, he's shown me all these options. And I said, you make great stuff, but if you want me, you have to do one thing for me.
Right.
He said, what's that? I said, I want hot pink.
All right. That's perfect.
And he goes, okay. And he ordered the Tolex and he built it for me.
It looks fantastic. We heard it today. It sounds fantastic. All right. You get a second handshake out of
Yes.
me. All right.
I'm the man. Thank you
You
so
are
much
the
for
man.
everything.
Thank you. Look, I want to thank everyone for tuning into Guitar Tales. What we'd love you to do, go on our YouTube channel, hit like. We have some great shows coming up. One show I really want to talk about, August 8th or so, we're filming Todd Yasui, who is the producer of Red Table, an Emmy Award-nominated show out in LA. He's actually the drummer on the outro music you'll be hearing in a couple of seconds. He's also a guitar player, singer, producer, fabulous. I want to thank Riverview Studios. I say it all the time. These studios are absolutely fantastic. riverviewstudios.com. Take a look at the place. Come in. They'll give you a free tour. Can we, Mary? Can we give a free tour? All right, we'll do a free tour. Also, thank you so much for our Publicist Extraordinaire, Scott Guitarmacist Engel, who is the guitar player among two guitar players, including Mr. Barber of the Smokin' Jackets, a huge Jersey Shore band. We want you to keep tuning in, spread the word. We're trying to get the greatest, wonderful musicians on that we can, guitar players. It's been a fabulous ride. This is episode 5. We will see you soon here on Guitar Tales. Thank you.